There's a belief people repeat, like wisdom. Life is short. You only get one family. You don't want to die regretting distance. I don't believe that. I think people die with far more regret knowing they erased themselves just to stay attached. That whole life is short belief doesn't protect love. It protects comfort. And it usually asks the same person to pay the price. And before I continue, I want to be very clear. This isn't me being anti-family. It's not cold or avoidant. It's honest. And it is my lived and integrated truth. Proximity is not the same thing as intimacy. And longevity is not the same thing as love. I have lived the other side of this. Chosen distance has not been romantic for me. It has felt like a sentence. Loneliness that didn't resolve with company. Silence that stretched for years. A kind of isolation that felt like hell because it wasn't numbing. It was fully conscious. There were long stretches where I wondered if I had made the wrong choices. If I had chosen integrity over belonging and lost both. I won't pretend otherwise. And here's the part most people leave out when they warn you about regret. Because it is not pretty, nor is it easy to swallow. If I had stayed, if I had kept myself smaller, quieter, more agreeable, just to preserve connection, I would have survived, but I would not have remained. Because the version of me that could stay was not the version of me that was real. We talk about regret like it only comes from absence, as if distance is the danger. But there's another kind of regret, one that doesn't announce itself. It accumulates. It's the regret of noticing how often you swallowed your truth to keep the room calm. The regret of watching yourself perform familiarity instead of inhabiting yourself. The regret of realizing too late that you were present everywhere except inside your own life and your own body. I didn't choose distance because it felt good. I chose it because something in me knew that staying would require disappearance. And that cost was higher than loneliness. Here's the lie hidden inside the life is short rhetoric. It assumes that staying close is always the moral choice, that endurance equals love, that loyalty means tolerance, that discomfort is something you should outgrow. But what if distance is not avoidance? What if distance is preservation? There is a kind of loneliness that comes from being alone, and there is a much deeper loneliness that comes from being unseen while surrounded. I've known both, intimately, and only one of them returned me to myself. The painful truth is this. These long seasons of isolation, as brutal as they were the only reason I was able to return to my core identity. Not reinvent myself, not heal into a new version. Return to who I had always been, before adaptation, compliance, and survival became the cost of belonging. And yes, that return required grief. It required mourning relationships that could not meet me without distortion. It required accepting that love offered conditionally is not something you earn your way into. People warn you about dying with regret for not maintaining family bonds. But no one warns you about dying having never lived inside of yourself. No one talks about the regret of realizing you spent decades being tolerated instead of met, or the regret of discovering that you were loyal to systems that were never loyal to you. I'm not saying that everyone should choose distance. I'm saying not everyone should choose proximity, especially when proximity requires self-erasure. See, there's a reason the phrase, "you only get one family," is often used when boundaries are set. It's rarely said when love is mutual. It's said when compliance is expected. Here's what I know now. Loss hurts, but self-abandonment corrodes. Loss can be grieved. Self-erasure fractures something essential. The loneliness I endured was excruciating, but it was honest. And honesty, even when it hurts, creates ground. And from that ground, I didn't become harder. I became clearer. There's something else I want to say. Distance did not make me superior. It made me accountable. Because once I stopped blaming circumstances, once I stopped hoping others would change, I had to live with myself. Fully. No audience, no performance, no bargaining. That's not empowerment. That's responsibility. When clarity arrives, you can't unknow. When clarity arrives, there's no way that you cannot unsee what staying would cost. You can't pretend that you didn't see the trade. And once you see it, going back doesn't feel like forgiveness. It feels like betrayal. So when people tell me I'll regret distance someday, I understand the fear behind that warning, but I do not share it. Because the regret I was heading toward was not about who I wasn't close to. It was about who I wasn't allowed to be. Chosen distance didn't save me from pain. It saved me from disappearance. I don't owe my future self a life lived in fragments. I don't owe anyone my silence in exchange for peace. And I do not believe love requires the amputation of truth. Sometimes distance is not cold. It is clean and necessary. And sometimes staying is not noble. It is self-erasure dressed up as virtue. If this resonates, it's not asking you to leave anyone. It's simply asking you to notice where staying has required you to disappear. Where being the bigger person has meant being the quieter one. Where connection has been maintained by shrinking your own reality. And that isn't love. And you are not wrong for refusing it. Life is short, which is exactly why I will not spend it living uninhabited in myself. I don't know how long I have, but I do know this. I would rather face the grief of distance than the regret of never having arrived in myself.